You say, in this part of your statement, you are more or less posing a question to the commissioners.
Correct.
And you are not testifying or advancing any factual basis or suggesting that the media conference was intended to protect criminals. That's not your suggestion.
I'm not.
You are posing a question?
It's not a statement, it's a question.
Okay.
And what I'm asking the commissioners to do is to have an open mind and ask yourselves the question, was that media conference a smokescreen? That's what I'm asking you to do. And in order to guide your thinking on that, I've given my own ideas here. And my ideas are quite simple. I've made it clear that for years and years and years, the epicenter of crime in the police service is the Crime Intelligence Division. It's the epicenter. Everything that goes wrong in the police, it's the Crime Intelligence Division. And why? Because we have a so-called Secret Services account, which is so secret, nobody can know how the money's spent, which is great. Because if you want some money to do other things with, you can do it. And nobody can ask you any questions. No Auditor General has ever given a clean report on the Crime Intelligence Secret Service account. And if one looks at the growth of that fund, by the way, you can pick up from the police budgets the fund itself, but you can't see how it's spent. And in 2012, when General Mkhwanazi was the acting Commissioner of Police, the budget for the Secret Service account was 98 million rand per annum. In 2024, it stood at 600 million rand per annum, which is an increase of 512%, which is 5 times the rate of inflation over that same period. But what we don't have is we don't have a concomitant decrease in crime. What we do have, if you look at the last 14 years, is we have successive heads of crime intelligence being arrested and sent to jail for stealing from the Secret Service account. It's just a manna from heaven. It's gift, and there needs to be a lot of control, much better control over that. And I talk about here, when I ask the question, was it a smoke screen? I ask the question, I name 5 generals and 2 brigadiers who were arrested in June 2025. They were arrested on the 26th of June. It's no coincidence. In my annexes, I have taken that media briefing of General Mkhwanazi, and I've had it transcribed. The transcription is there. And if you look at the theme of the transcription and start looking at the mentioning of crime intelligence, it starts to conjure in your mind, was this a whole smokescreen to protect all of these people in crime intelligence? And when you think about it, and I ask you to keep an open mind, if you look at it, there has to be an answer there somewhere. It cannot be right that this is all linked. By the way, on the 1st of July, I had my attorneys, the attorneys of Forensics for Justice, I had them send a very strong letter to Commissioner Masemola. And the letter is very strongly worded. And it talks about the accused persons, which I refer to in my affidavit as the Crime Intelligence 7. And in that letter, we're demanding that these people are urgently suspended because they've all been charged with corruption. And according to General Mkhwanazi, it's not corruption, it's an HR matter. I don't agree with that. It's corruption. So we have this situation where they're charged with corruption. We send a letter through demanding that they be suspended. An hour later, or 2 hours later, we get a short reply back from General Masemola, which is on page 505 of my evidence bundle, which effectively says, I'll do what has to be done. I'll comply with the law. Not one of them has been suspended. Not one. To this very day, not one of them has been suspended. And by the way, some of them have been charged more than once, because General Lushaba, who's the CFO, he's in charge of the Secret Service account. He was also charged with losing his laptop computer and a firearm, and instructing members under his command to go out and get his laptop and firearm back, and then to doctor the docket that he opened. And when he opened the docket, he said that somebody came in through his window and stole his firearm, his state-issued firearm, and they stole his laptop. But it actually turned out that he'd invited a lady into his premises, and they had a few drinks, and he fell asleep. And she made off with his money, his firearm, and his laptop. He got other police officials at the rank of colonel to go and get his laptop and firearm back, which they did. He's charged for that. He was arrested for it and charged. And what they did, they went and got his laptop and firearm back. But now we had a problem, because he'd opened the docket at the police station where he said somebody had climbed in through his open window. So he got those two colonels to go to the police station and get hold of the investigating officer on the case that he'd opened, and removed the papers from that docket and replaced them with fake papers. So that's the sort of thing that's going on in crime. That's the Chief Finance Officer of Crime Intelligence. And when you look at all these things going on, and then you analyze, Commissioners, the transcription, because nobody's produced the transcription before now. I've produced it. I had it produced within days of his media conference, and it's there at pages 510 to 536. And what's interesting is on page 533. On page 533, he doesn't mention my name. General Mkhwanazi says the following: that's why there's a call in public from a person that I will not necessarily mention his name, that the National Commissioner must bypass the disciplinary regulations of the service, must simply suspend these people because it's inaudible. Why is that call? It's a call that is putting more pressure to make sure the country, hence the handing over to the criminal syndicate. So because I've called for the suspension of these 5 generals and 2 brigadiers, General Mkhwanazi is accusing me of handing the country over to a crime syndicate. In fact, I'm trying to stop this crime syndicate that's active in crime intelligence from carrying on with their crimes.
Mr. Sullivan, can I ask you one question? You say the press conference of 6 July 2025 was a smokescreen.
Was it? It's a question.
Yeah. So let's assume that it was.
Pardon me?
I'm saying let's assume for the purposes of my engagement with you that it was a smokescreen.
Yeah.
Does it mean that the allegations made that day are not true and should not be investigated? Because that's what this commission has been established to do.
Absolutely.
It is to investigate, amongst others, the allegations that were made by General Mkhwanazi on the day. Now, say his motive, for argument's sake, say his motive was to protect the Crime Intelligence 7.
Yeah.
And that was his reason for this press conference. Does that mean the allegations he made are not true and should not be investigated?
Absolutely not. In fact, if you look at me having gone on record, on the 6th of July in the evening, I did a media call. The media contacted me about this whole media conference of his. And the first thing I said was there needs to be a judicial commission of inquiry. I made the point, and I've repeatedly made the point, that the lack of attention by the State Capture Commission to the criminal justice system has resulted in where we are today. And I have absolutely no doubt that a lot of good will come out of the allegations he's made. But were they made for the right reason? That's the question I'm asking. And I don't believe they were. And if you look at the transcript, it starts to come out what actually the purpose of that media conference was. And I don't believe it was just about Minister Mchunu and these various parties, what's his name, Kat Malala, and all these other people. I don't believe it was about that. And the reason I've given in my briefing here today is that I start off by saying, this isn't the first time that we've had criminals penetrating the criminal justice system. It's been going on for years and years. Even during apartheid, it was still going on. So this is not new. But if any good comes out of it, fabulous. But what I'm saying is we need to keep an open mind as to the motive. And that's all I'm requesting.
Is the motive a question that's within our remit, though?
Is the motive, sorry?
Is it a question that's within our remit? Must we answer that question?
If one looks at your, if you look at your...
So does that question fall within our terms of reference?
Yes, if you look at your terms of reference,
yes,
it doesn't go there. However, if you apply, as your colleague did earlier, this novus actus interveniens, what if he didn't call that media conference? Would we be sitting here today? The answer is no. So a sequence of events has taken place, and all I'm saying is not everything is what it's been painted out to be. And I've requested the commissioners to keep an open mind. I keep an open mind on these issues. Of course, I would like to persuade you this way or that way, but the reality is I would never like to persuade you of something that's not right.
We should keep an open mind on matters that fall within our terms of reference.
Exactly.
So that's why I'm engaging you on whether this is something that falls within the terms
then
of
you're
reference.
left with the question.
Especially bear in mind that you have said a lot of good has come out of this process, and probably most of it does indeed fall within our terms of reference. So the issue is, all of that, or all of those issues, because we are yet to submit a final report, all of the issues that have arisen are issues that we must keep an open mind on, except those perhaps that are clear and on which everybody has already said something. That is, even those that are implicated.
No, of course.
Perhaps on those we may make, or rather have sort of final views on such matters, but otherwise we keep an open mind. But that relates to matters that fall within our terms of reference. So you keep saying, you're asking us to keep an open mind. If what you are raising, insofar as the motive is concerned, does not fall within the terms of reference, the issue of us keeping an open mind does not arise at all.
No.
If you accept that the question of the motive does not fall within our terms of reference. But I'm engaging you on whether it does, and I think you've accepted that it does not.
It's chicken and egg, isn't it? Because if the motive was to create a smoke screen, then it possibly does fall within your terms of reference, because you need to know what was that smoke screen all about. And then you start asking other questions. So I prefer myself to be the bringer of information, not the decider of facts. But I brought the information to this commission because I've spent the last 36 years of my life trying to make this a better country to live in for all people in South Africa. And that's why when I saw what was going on, I thought, I need to throw my 10 cents into the mixture as well, especially since I've been named by the protagonist. When General Mkhwanazi got up and blamed me, I had nothing to do with this cat Matlala and these drug cartels and all the rest of it. I had no knowledge of what was going on until I heard about it in the media. But for him to name me, why was he naming me? And I can tell you the reason why. Because I didn't write, I got my attorneys to write a letter to General Masemola and demand that these 5 generals and 2 brigadiers be suspended. That's why I was named.
I would understand the smokescreen point better if it does not go beyond saying. This was a smokescreen that was calculated to shield these generals from criminality that they are otherwise involved in. So we don't really get into, was it indeed a smokescreen?
No. Then it possibly does fall within your terms of reference, because you need to know what was that smokescreen all about. And then you start asking other questions. So I prefer myself to be the bringer of information, not the decider of facts. But I brought the information to this commission because I've spent the last 36 years of my life trying to make this a better country to live in for all people in South Africa. And that's why when I saw what was going on, I thought, I need to throw my 10 cents into the mixture as well, especially since I've been named by the protagonist. When General Mkhwanazi got up and blamed me, I had nothing to do with this cat Matlala and these drug cartels and all the rest of it. I had no knowledge of what was going on until I heard about it in the media. But for him to name me, why was he naming me? And I can tell you the reason why. Because I didn't write, I got my attorneys to write a letter to General Masemola and demand that these 5 generals and 2 brigadiers be suspended. That's why I was named.
I would understand the smokescreen point better if it does not go beyond saying. This was a smokescreen that was calculated to shield these generals from criminality that they are otherwise involved in. So we don't really get into, was it indeed a smokescreen? That's not before us.
I understand.
That's not before us.
I agree with you. I agree with you that your terms of reference do not ask you to consider whether it was a smokescreen.
Yeah. So the criminality itself would then have to be something that does indeed fall within our terms of reference. The criminality shielded by the smokescreen. Your comment?
I suppose the acid test will come in time when we see what happens, because we do know.
Yes. Alleged criminality, of course,
yes,
at this
alleged
stage.
criminality.
Yes,
we do know, for example, that last week or the week before, there were allegedly other warrants of arrest for 2 of the same generals, of 2 of the same 5 generals apparently are going to be arrested again. I have no knowledge of that, only what I've seen in the media. Hopefully tomorrow will be a peaceful day, and then whatever has to happen will happen. But I do believe that it will all unravel. It normally does. You know, if one looks at the late Commissioner Jackie Celebi, people don't believe me when I tell them, actually, I spent 8 years investigating that matter. And they say, 8 years? How can you spend 8 years? Well, you want to get to the truth, so that's what you do. And in this matter, there's a lot of things coming out of this commission, which is really, really good, because we're seeing generals in the police being exposed for criminality. And that's fantastic. But it doesn't mean the person that's exposing them hasn't been involved in any hanky-panky either.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify two things. From your paragraph 1.8.2, you deal with this.
Sorry, page number?
26 of your statement. The second paragraph, that's where you introduce the charges brought against Lieutenant General Khumalo and the 6 other members of the service, whom you term the Crime Intelligence 7, right? At the next paragraph, you state that their charges relate to the irregular employment of Ms. Mkhwanazi in a senior ranking position of brigadier in the technical support services of crime intelligence. And then beyond that, you talk about what transpires after they were arrested. The point I want to clarify is the budget and the looting of the Crime Intelligence Fund, alleged, this case has got nothing to do with that. It has no bearing, or in any manner are there allegations that these 7...
This commission?
No, the charges brought against the people you term the Crime Intelligence 7. It's got nothing to do with the looting of the...
For what they were arrested on that day, I agree.
Yes, that's a clarification I seek.
General Pelani Lushaba was arrested 3 weeks before that.
Yes.
And that was pertaining to the Crime Intelligence Funds. And I'm just saying...
Now, let's take it a step at a time, right? We're dealing with these charges here.
Yep.
And I ask this because you start that subject by introducing this 512% increase in the budget, and you pose questions as if there is no legitimate basis for that growth in budget, and therefore insinuating that something untoward is going on. You state that in your 181, and then you follow it up with the charges. So I'm saying, in truth, there is no link between the charges of 26 June 2025 and the so-called looting of the Crime Intelligence Funds. There isn't.
The only link would be that the people in charge of the Crime Intelligence Fund are the same people that are being charged here.
But these people, you say at 1.8.3 that their charges relate to the irregular appointment of Ms. Mkhwanazi, and that's as narrow as it gets.
Absolutely,
yes.
But as a separate issue, if they can be charged with these acts of corruption, why would you leave them in charge of a 600 million rand budget?
Okay, we'll pose that question to subs, but in the meantime, then you introduce the second issue of General Lushaba, the second charge where you talk about the computer disappearing under...
May I just very quickly ask a question around the appointment of General Mkhwanazi, Brigadier, I'm very sorry, Dineo Mkhwanazi. So Tswana people must please forgive me, I'm not at all sure of the pronunciation of this name. The evidence that was given by General Khumalo is that the position required someone with expert skills. I forget the term he used for this, but he had a special term for the expertise they required for this position. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he said largely that expertise is to be found within motor vehicle manufacturers.
BMW.
Sorry?
So when I found out about this...
I did not get the impression that it was BMW only. The skill is within motor manufacturers.
Right. She was working at BMW head office.
That may be so. That may be so. But what I'm saying is, what General Khumalo said was that for this position, they required a certain expertise, and that this expertise is to be found within the motor manufacturing industry. Doesn't have to be BMW, it may be BMW, it may be Toyota, it may be Mercedes-Benz, or whatever other company that manufactures motor vehicles. You are with me thus far?
I understand what you're saying.
Yes. And so he said, it's not unheard of within SAPS to appoint someone who has no experience at all in policing. If that person is being appointed for the expertise they possess. And this applies over several types of industries or environments. So it's not just the motor manufacturing industry. And he gave a few examples. And I'm sure that you too, with the experience that you have, you must be aware that there are other people with other forms of expertise who have been appointed by SAPS and not given the rank of constable, but given higher up ranks within SAPS with no policing experience at all. Do you accept that this does happen within SAPS?
I accept that in the police service,
yes,
from time to time,
yes,
people are appointed that have no policing experience.
yes.
However, they go through a procedure to motivate why that person should be appointed. And there's normally a panel where people are interviewed. It's not my function other than to suggest to the commissioners that the best people to answer these questions would be IDAC, because they're the ones that charge them. And I've seen the charge sheet because it's a matter of public record. And the charge sheet makes it clear that they interfered with the recruitment process to unlawfully appoint this particular woman, when in fact they could have, if she was that important to be appointed, they could have motivated it properly and done it transparently. But it was done without transparency, and it was done behind closed doors, and there was no proper recruitment procedure followed, which is why General Mkhwanazi said, oh, it's an HR matter. It's not the HR matter. They are alleged to have committed fraud when they hired this lady, and I think IDAC would be best placed to explain why they were arrested and charged rather than myself.
On this having been done behind closed doors, do you mean that there was no advertisement for the position?
That's not what I believe. I don't know. I don't know enough detail about it, Commissioner. All I know is what I saw, I phoned the lady, this Brigadier Makwela, and I explained to her that I'm from Forensics for Justice. I'm speaking to you now because these allegations have been made. I'd like to get your version of events. This is before I made a formal complaint.
But you are basically saying you cannot say that there was no advertisement.
That's what my understanding is, that they didn't follow the correct procedures.
Do you know for a fact whether or not there was an advertisement?
Whether there was what?
Whether there was or there wasn't an advertisement for the position. Do you know or do you not know, or you say you did not find the advertisement? My next question was going to be, do you know or do you not know what the requirements were for the position?
Absolutely not. I laid the complaint based on the information I had. And what I asked, but by the way, I don't believe I was the only person that laid a complaint. I believe a member of parliament also laid a complaint. The reality of the situation is that the best place to get the answers to these questions, Commissioner, would be IDAC, not me.
You see, what we got, I'm not even sure from what sources, appeared to be the unsubstantiated complaint that someone with no policing experience had been appointed as a brigadier. That doesn't say much. If we know, as you accept, that within SAPS they can appoint someone with no policing experience into a high-ranking position. So that means nothing on its own.
So, Commissioner, I didn't base my complaint on the fact that this person had no policing experience. My complaint was based on the information that I received. And when I checked it out,
Which was what? What was this information?
the information I received was that she was parachuted in, which is an expression meaning bypass all the procedures, appoint her at any costs. That's the information that I received. And that's the report I made.
Do you have any difficulties telling us who or how you received this information?
Pardon me?
Do you have any problems telling us how and from whom you received this information?
So, as I mentioned earlier, Forensics for Justice have a hotline, and we have a web report where you can make a report on the internet without leaving your name, who you are, and you can phone and leave a message on the toll-free number.
Yes.
In this particular matter, it came through on the toll-free number by a person in crime intelligence. So, you know, I looked into it. I phoned the lady in question to see if she would give me a reasonable explanation. I do believe I may even have the messages that I sent to her.
No. Just give us the substance of.
Okay. So my phone call was, we've received this complaint. I'd like to hear your version of events. She said, no, I can't talk to you. You must speak to head office. I said, who at head office? And she put the phone down. That's not the conduct of a person that's got nothing to hide. So then I obviously ran background checks on this person. I spoke to BMW Motors, and I was able to establish what she was doing there, and that comprised the report which I gave to the OIG, the Office for Inspector General of Intelligence. So when you make these type of complaints, the place because it's crime intelligence, the place you make the complaint is the OIG. And if they don't do anything about it, you might take it further. But I subsequently heard from the OIG, because I had meetings with them, and they told me that they'd referred the matter to IDAC.
Thank you.
And if I may just follow up on this question the chair asked, in response to a question the chair had posed to you, you stated that you inquired from BMW what position she held at BMW.
She's an admin clerk.
So BMW advised you that she's an admin clerk?
Correct.
And not that she held the qualification that the chair earlier referenced, they never told you about that?
And when I asked her about her qualification, she didn't want to discuss it with me, so I couldn't really go any further.
Well, I'm sure it's not very surprising because you are a third party wanting to know about her personal affairs, so she's not duty-bound exactly to account to you, is she?
But when I explained it to her, Commissioners, I didn't say, by the way, I want to know about your personal affairs. I explained that we had received a tip-off, and the tip-off implicated her, and I would like her to clear the air by explaining what happened, how she was recruited. And she just told me, you have to speak to head office. I said, who at head office? She said, no, that's your business, you must find out. And then she put the phone down.
Okay. Have you ever...
Sorry. Just for the record, the expertise that was required here is mechatronics.
Say again?
I'm saying the expertise that was required for this position is something called mechatronics. Okay. Just for the record, I'm not asking for a response.
May be the case. And I do believe that the best place to get the answer here would be the prosecutor that charged them.
Yes. And lastly, you are not on record as having suggested that she was a tea lady at BMW. That has been bandied about in public. You are not the source of that claim?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I was able to ascertain that at that time, I'm going back now over a year and a half, at that stage she was 29 years old.
Yes.
So definitely not a teenager.
No. tea lady.
Oh, I thought you said teenager.
No.
No,
Then
I def-
I'll repose my question then.
No.
Because I say it is bandied
defi-
about. Let me explain myself.
I definitely made no mention of her being a tea lady. But
Okay.
what you have in this country, well, you have in every country, is you have this thing called social media, which
Yes.
I don't engage in.
Yes.
But you get somebody on social media who says, oh, they appointed a tea lady as a brigadier. But, you know, definitely I'm not the source of such
Okay.
activity.
And that's what I sought to establish. Commissioner, yes. But
Mr. Sullivan, I ask only because you say you're one of the people, one of two people, I think, who laid a complaint. Now, in respect of Brigadier Mukwele, what was your complaint about her in particular? I'm not asking about the other.
My complaint was that she had been recruited without going through proper recruitment procedures. The informant that came to us told us that this person had been recruited to a position which other people had applied for and were competent to do, but they had bypassed the procedures.
And, I mean, it being a criminal complaint, you consider
It wasn't
that...
a criminal, my complaint wasn't a criminal complaint.
Oh, I see.
It was a complaint to the OIGI that, and by the way, it sat with other aspects of a broader complaint involving properties that were being purchased and other issues,
Yes.
which I haven't brought to this commission because, you know, it wasn't
No,
part of your terms of reference.
You have answered me. I was interested in understanding what your, firstly I thought your complaint against her in particular was that she committed a criminal offense, and I wanted to know if that
No, I
is
never
so.
said
You
she
never,
committed
all
a
right,
criminal
that's fine,
offense.
thank you.
Can you just clear up, sorry, Advocate Silo, maybe you may resolve a mystery. Was it you by any chance who slipped the dossier, the investigation dossier, under a certain member of Parliament's door?
Which dossier?
You said you conducted the investigation and then you sent a complaint to the Inspectorate General.
Let me be truthful.
Yes.
I'm not in the business of jumping on a plane and flying to Cape Town to slide a dossier under anybody's door. The information, I've still got the emails on my email system where I report to the OIGI. I don't send any dossiers to, and I know who you're talking about. I don't do that.
So he did not get it from you?
Absolutely did not get any dossier from me.
Thank you.
thank you, Commissioner Khumalo. If I may move then to page 28 of your statement.
Yep.
And maybe some clarification here. At paragraph 1.8.9.
Sorry, Mr. Lo, maybe before you do that.
Absolutely.
Mr. Sullivan, in your paragraph 1.8.5, you refer us to the two letters. That's your attorney's letter to General Masemula and his response. And your further response to him is quite scathing. And I think you've spoken to that. Looking at his response to your attorneys.
No.
No, I'm saying I am looking at...
Say again?
I'm looking at his response to your attorneys.
Yes.
Which you find at page 505.
Correct.
And which obviously displeased you. And you are, in page 506, you speak quite very strongly against that letter.
Yes.
Now, the last paragraph would have been in his response at 505, would be what offended you. And I just want to ask, what is wrong? What do you consider to be wrong with this response?
Which paragraph?
The last paragraph in 505, General Masemula's response to you, to your attorneys.
What was the purpose of the trip? What?
Page 505, are you there with me?
Oh, 505.
Yes.
Sorry. 505, yes?
Yes, that's General Masemula responding to your attorneys.
Correct.
Yes, and my question is, what do you fault with this kind of response? I mean, I look at the last paragraph of that letter, and it is standard letter. And no, let me finish. It's a standard response about respect for the Labor Relations Act and all the applicable relevant prescripts. And my reading of this is he says, we will act and comply with the Labor Relations Act and the labor law prescripts that deal with matters like this. You take offense to that kind of response. And my question to you is, why do you find this an unsatisfactory response?
Because that response, Commissioner, wasn't a standalone document. I had already been engaging with him. There's multiple emails. So unfortunately, you can't just look at the letter that my attorney sent and his response. You have to look at all the prior emails and the information that I had received, and I had requested action by Commissioner Masemola. And if we go back a little bit and we talk about the evidence I gave you in respect of General Khan, that's just one example of where I'd laid a complaint and he just ignores me. But on this matter, he sent this letter.
Yes.
And you're looking at a situation where 5 generals and 2 brigadiers, there's going to be no suspension. By the way, they were never suspended.
No, yeah, sorry, maybe let me clarify what I'm asking. Your attorneys write a letter, right? That's the letter at page 502, in which they demand the suspension of these people. There's no reference to anyone else, any other case. There's no Khan, there's nothing to it. There's just these people, the generals and the 2 brigadiers. And then they demand in the letter that these people must be suspended, otherwise you'll bring an urgent application to court. He responds to you, and he says, the National Commissioner is aware of his constitutional duties in terms of the SAPS Act, as well as the SA disciplinary regulations. It must be emphasized that this matter is receiving the necessary attention it deserves, and it's a matter that involves the relationship between employer and employee in line with the Labor Relations Act, as well as all the other relevant prescripts. That's what he says. You respond, and you are displeased by it, and you call it a response which you describe as an arrogant middle finger response to my attorney's letter of demand. So at this stage, we are speaking about your attorney's letter and his response. That's all we are discussing. And my question is, what do you find wrong and offensive in the manner in which he has responded, which I've just read to you now?
Well, if I put myself in the shoes of a commissioner of police, and I've got 5 generals and 2 brigadiers that have just been arrested and charged with serious crimes, including corruption, I would immediately suspend them, immediately. And it's good for some police officers get immediate suspension when they do wrong. But these 5 generals and these 2 brigadiers, we get this response saying, I'll do what has to be done, I'll comply with the legislation, but actually nothing was done. They've never been suspended.
The nothing was done, they've never been suspended is post. The nothing was done. You say nothing was done. They were never suspended. That's what you say.
Correct.
But that is after he has written this letter.
Yes.
So he writes to you on the 1st of July and says, that's the position of the law, I'm aware of it. And you, on the 5th of July, you say this response is effectively a middle finger, is to raise a middle finger to your attorney's letter. What I'm asking is, well, maybe let me speak for myself, that I see nothing wrong in his response. It is standard response that says, I will abide with the prescripts. That he later on doesn't suspend them is a different conversation, and I would probably have the same problem as you, that he didn't suspend them after he said, I'm looking at it. But at this point, I'm speaking to the response, and especially because your response to him is quite flowery language.
Yep.
And it's terribly uncharitable response to him. And I'm asking on that basis but what causes you so much offense in this letter that he writes to you?
My response to him was meant to be antagonistic. It was meant to put him under pressure. I realized, because I took legal advice, based on the letter that he'd given, we were ready to bring an urgent application. But based on that letter, damn, we can't bring the urgent application. Now, that letter may look all good and legal and above board, but the reality of the situation, given the seriousness of the crimes for which these people have been arrested, they should have all been suspended. There can be no doubt in my mind. If I was Commissioner of Police, I would have said, sorry guys, you're suspended immediately.
Yeah, except you're not allowed to do that. You see, we have labor laws in this country.
But they do.
No, let me say.
Yeah.
We have labor laws, we have a disciplinary code that regulates processes that lead up to a suspension. So what you say that you would have done, it wouldn't be in accordance with the prescript. Maybe he shouldn't have followed the prescript if that's what you're saying. But what you're saying he should have done is not how it works.
So,
how it works is you give the employee an opportunity to make submissions about why they should not be suspended if you're considering to suspend them. And depending on what they say, it depends what they say, because you have to take into account what they say in their submissions, and then you make a decision. Anything other than that is in fact an unfair labor practice, which our law punishes.
can I respond?
Yes, you may.
So, if we're talking about a work environment, like a company or corporation, or even a government department, I agree with you. But we're talking about people that are supposed to be upholding the law. And there have been multiple occasions where senior police officials have been suspended instantly. And that, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
And they have been returned to work if a procedure that was followed is not in compliance with their disciplinary code and the law. They have been returned.
Yeah.
All right. The point I'm making, the simple point I'm making is that he says to you, I will follow due process. Maybe he meant to defeat your agent application. I don't know about that. I'm looking at the letter and especially your response to it, and I don't understand what would have angered you that much that you speak the way you do in your response to him, including telling him that you will take him down. You've taken 2 commissioners previously down, and you will get him removed. I'm trying to make sense of that kind of response to this letter.
Yeah.
But I've heard you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one, Mr. O'Sullivan. We don't have to go there. I can read it for you. I take it that you are aware that during his testimony on the 17th of September, General Mkhwanazi, and it's in his statement, paragraphs 8 and 9, indicated as follows. I must emphasize that this briefing was a product of a collective and collaborative efforts of various units within SAPS and the majority of men and women in the service. It is a reflection of the common concerns shared among members of all ranks and a common desire for their resolution to enable these members to serve with honor. At paragraph 9, he says, in presenting the information I shared with the public, I acted both as a member of this collective and the person designated to deliver this collective message. You recall that? Now you hear that.
I can't remember.
Okay, but you've heard what I've just read out to you.
I've heard what you just said, yes.
Now I turn then to page 28, paragraph 1.8.9. My question really, I'm trying to understand what your challenge is at 1.8.9 in the context of what I have just read. You state that in your submission to the ad hoc committee, which was ignored by them, you pointed out that the PowerPoint presentation used by Mkhwanazi had metadata which showed it had been created on a SAPS computer, which is emphasis, not Mkhwanazi's computer. It would be wise for the commission to establish the use of the said computer and who typed and where they typed the presentation to the media. Why must we concern ourselves with that exercise?
Well, I'm not saying you have to concern yourselves with
Okay,
it.
the basis for
I'm
the
suggesting
suggestion?
it would be wise because it may well be that the person that prepared this presentation is not from Mkhwanazi's office at all.
But if you look at the picture, you have
That's the metadata.
the metadata, you have reflected it here. It says the creator is SAPS, then a number there. It gives it's a SAPS computer. So in the context of General Mkhwanazi saying that he acted as a member of a collective within SAPS and somebody to deliver, does it become an issue that the presentation was not created on his own computer, but on another SAPS computer?
It may not be an issue.
Okay.
But until we know who actually prepared that presentation, why not be transparent about it and say, by the way, on such and such a date, I sat down with this person, that person, and we prepared this presentation. All I'm saying is there's an opportunity to have transparency, and it would be wise to do that.
Yeah,
I can't dictate to the Commission what to do. I'm just making a suggestion.
I guess, we don't overpromise and underdeliver. I'm trying to appreciate the value of that exercise, because at 1.8.10 you say, I believe it is in the public interest for the computer's users' details to be obtained and the person interviewed to establish who instructed him, her, what he, she was instructed, and where and when he, she typed out the presentation. The metadata reflects that this is a SAPS computer. General Mkhwanazi says it's a whole lot of us. I was just there as in a representative capacity. Why must the Commission go down that rabbit hole to establish what in particular?
I'm not saying the Commission must go down that road. I'm saying there's an opportunity there to have some transparency and find out who actually put this together.
It's a member of SAPS.
Yeah, but who?
The collective that General Mkhwanazi references in his statement.
One person typed this, not a collective.
Okay.
It would be useful to know who that was, I think.
Okay.
Surely, Mr. Sullivan, you have something that you would like to establish. What is it that you would like to establish for us to even consider that?
Commissioner, if one looks at the media briefing, and if one looks at this presentation, I'm saying the missing information is how that presentation came into being. And if we're talking about a collective, who is that collective? How did we form? How did we come together to make this presentation? That information is not in the public domain. And since this whole...
Surely you have your own theories.
I have my own theory.
You would not otherwise be going down that route.
I have my own theory, Commissioner.
That's why I'm asking you, what exactly do you want us to establish?
You see, there's the problem. I have my theory, but I would prefer if that information was provided without my theory being applied, because it may or may not reveal something interesting. That's all I wanted to say.
It's very uninteresting for us to go that route if we have no idea what we want to establish.
So my theory may not be factual. So if I have a hypothesis which hasn't been proven and I publish it, what am I actually doing? It's like Leonardo da Vinci inventing the airplane. Actually, he did it 400 years before the plane was invented. Now, the reality is I have a theory, but I'm not in the business of publishing an untested theory.
I was not even pushing you down that route, not at all. I just wanted to get an idea of...
I just believe that there's a lack of transparency around how that presentation came to be.
Just to try on the same theme. If your theory, and I'm not saying it's your theory, if your theory is it's General Mkhwanazi and Masemola, and let's say Dimpane, I'm just giving you names randomly, what difference does it make to this which you say we should find out? So you can pick any names and say to us that because what it will reveal is A, B, C, D. It's again trying to understand what really is your issue about this.
Let us say that when I asked this question, it links to a previous question I made about keeping an open mind, about the motive to this media conference, because we have to believe that the motive, according to General Mkhwanazi, was that, yeah, these are the issues and we want to get it out there and I'm going to become a whistleblower and I'm going to fight for my country and I'll die if I have to and what. Very emotional. And I'm surrounded by people with machine guns and balaclavas and whatnot. And I just believe that there could have been other ways of getting the same amount of attention on this matter without necessarily having this whole media briefing and having all the staff, by the way, from the provincial office there. All those people were sitting there on a Sunday afternoon. And by the way, who would have ever thought that I would receive a copy of that PowerPoint presentation? I didn't even know the media briefing was going on until a journalist phoned me and said, this guy's talking about you after the media. I said, what? Who? Which guy? And he told me. And I said, well, what media briefing? Do you have a copy of it? And he sent it to me. So not realizing I could now check, which I do with a forensic tool, I'm able to pull the metadata from that. And I thought, ooh, that's interesting. Now, I'm just saying there's a lack of transparency here, and that transparency may help show the motive behind this whole process that took place. Because it wasn't just a media briefing, it was a lot more than a media briefing. And I just think that whole thing needs to be opened up a little bit. And it's not part of your terms of reference, but I do believe that somewhere along the way, it may come out, okay, this is why it happened, this is what caused it, and these are the people that were involved. What if the theory shows that there was a little third force running around